This is Dan's Urban Survival and Prepping. This is a great video. I hope you guys enjoy it and learn something from it. If you do like it, please hit that thumbs up button and that subscribe button for more video content just like this. So, without further ado, let's get started.
I'm going to ask you to commit to listening to this whole presentation. At first glance, the EMP will seem straightforward, but there are some crucial details you'll miss if you don't stick it out the whole way through. The other reason I'm going to ask you to make a promise to yourself, and to me, to watch this whole presentation is this. Many people are going to be downright terrified at the destructive power of this weapon. They're going to go into denial. They'll say stuff like, if China could do that, they would have used it already, or Iran isn't smart enough to build something like that. Again, if only that were true. I'll tell you in the next few minutes why both of those are dead wrong. Just do me a favor and stick it out until the end. Anyway, now that we've weeded out anyone too scared to watch the whole thing, it's time to get to the good stuff. First, the basics. EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse. Another term you'll hear thrown around is HEMP. That's short for high altitude electromagnetic pulse. Alright, now that you've got the terminology down, let me explain what makes these things so deadly. First off, while it's a common belief that the U.S. government has been working on a highly sophisticated E-bomb for years, there's something a lot of people don't know. Smaller countries and even terrorist groups have the technology at their fingertips to make a less sophisticated, but no less devastating, EMP. It's kind of like having a perfectly balanced fencing sword versus an old hunting knife. If you stab someone in the chest with the sword or the knife, they'll still die. The same is true for America. It doesn't matter which one of the many types of EMPs hits us, it can still decimate our way of life. And the bad part, these weapons are available to every single one of our major enemies, China, Iran, even Al-Qaeda. And that's if the tidal wave from space doesn't rock our world first. But back to how EMPs work. You may not know this, but you can get hit with electromagnetic rays every second of every day. Your microwave, radio, and cell phone all transmit with electromagnetic waves. Obviously, they're not enough to do any real damage, or all the texting teenagers would have brought the U.S. to a halt already. But here's the important takeaway, and by the way, you can find all this stuff on the How Stuff Works site. First, electric current creates a magnetic field. That new magnetic zone then interacts with the other fields on Earth and changes them slightly. Here's where it starts. Changing magnetic fields makes an electric current, and it makes this current in any available conductor. Now, that may be a bit confusing, so let me break it down in plain English. Here's an example. A radio station works by changing the magnetic field to induce or create current in a radio antenna. It's not strong enough to do much more. But if you made the radio station a whole lot bigger, it'd overload the semiconductor and fry the radio. And when I say fry, I mean completely toasted. The only way to fix this puppy is to get a new semiconductor. Here's the scary part. If you made the field big enough, it'd convert almost anything that conducts electricity into an overloaded antenna. Stuff like power lines, cell phones, heck, even metal pipes would have massive amounts of electricity gushing through them. And just like the radio, anything this electric tidal wave hits will be completely useless. That means no power, no TV, no refrigerator, no hospitals, no grocery store, no cell phones, no police, and no government. Heck, 98% of the cars wouldn't even start. But it's not like most people think. They imagine an EMP as like a giant bolt of lightning. That's completely wrong. It's more like a massive radio wave, or as corny as it sounds, a radio tsunami. It's all right there in black and white. Everything that can conduct electricity, which means anything with metal in it, or in other words, every single one of the electronic devices we use to live on. This might all sound a little drastic, but you should know I'm not telling you this to scare you. The good news is there are quite a few ways that you can prepare for something like this. As I mentioned before, I'm going to share what I believe is the #1 way to protect yourself and your family if an EMP hits. But the bad news is, these threats aren't just part of some conspiracy theory. Back in 2001, the U.S. government put together an entire commission just to handle this issue. The 10-member team, with 1 general and 7 PhDs, I should add, found some pretty disturbing stuff. It's kind of long, and you can tell a politician wrote it by how boring it is. But pay special attention. After I read it, I'm going to quiz you on a couple of key points to see if you were paying attention. They're probably not the ones you think. Anyway, here's the abstract from the EMP Commission. Several potential adversaries have or can acquire the capability to attack the United States with a high-altitude nuclear weapon-generated electromagnetic pulse, EMP. A determined adversary can achieve an EMP attack capability without having a high level of sophistication. See, we talked about this. EMP is one of a small number of threats that can hold our society at risk of catastrophic consequences. EMP will cover the wide geographic region within line of sight to the nuclear weapon. It has the capability to produce significant damage to critical infrastructures and thus to the very fabric of U.S. society, as well as to the ability of the United States and Western nations to project influence and military power. And the common element that can produce such an impact from EMP is primarily electronics, so pervasive in all aspects of our society and military, coupled through critical infrastructures. Our vulnerability is increasing daily as our use of and dependence on electronics continues to grow. The impact of EMP is asymmetric in relation to potential protagonists who are not as dependent on modern electronics. The current vulnerability of our critical infrastructures can both invite and reward attack if not corrected. Correction is feasible and well within the nation's means and resources to accomplish. Well, I hope you caught the key points. First off, you probably heard them repeat some things I've been telling you. The reality is this isn't rocket science. Even the government can figure this out. Second, I hope you paid attention to the very last sentence. It's one of the key points for sure. They said, correction is feasible and well within the nation's means and resources to accomplish. But do you think the government has taken any steps to harden the U.S. infrastructure against an EMP attack? Heck no. Did I mention this report was published back in 2004? It seems like a no-brainer. Here's a group of very smart people telling the government, America, and even you and I there's something really wrong. But no one is doing anything about it. Let me ask you a question. Are you ready for an EMP attack? Like we've talked about, it's pretty much common sense, but it's just tough to believe any of this could actually happen. I mean, it's just like September 11th. If you'd asked anybody on the street on September 10th, they'd never have believed this could have happened. But as you're probably starting to see, it can. Let me explain a little bit more about how these E-bombs work, and how China, Iran, or even Al-Qaeda could use them against us. See, there are two types of EMPs out there, nuclear and non-nuclear. It's tough to say which one is a bigger threat. It'd be almost too easy for China or Iran to strap a non-nuclear EMP onto a payload of a bomb, cruise missile, or a simple drone. And then they wouldn't have to worry about the rest of the world going off on them because they used a nuke. Plus, it's well known that human beings get jealous, and that jealousy can be used in a lot of ways. No one would deny that the U.S., even in its weakened state, after what our politicians have done, is on top of the world. And that makes a lot of people jealous. There are plenty of countries that would be more than happy to turn a blind eye if someone was out to destroy the U.S. as we know it. On the other hand, you've got nuclear EMPs. These bad boys are serious. After the Soviet Union disbanded, quite a few nukes they had stockpiled quickly disappeared. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that whoever got their hands on them probably isn't friendly to the U.S. But honestly, terrorist groups don't even need the Soviets' bombs. They can just make their own. Heck, in 1975, The Economist magazine warned, quote, "You can make a bomb with a few pounds of plutonium," end of quote. And today, there's a whole lot of plutonium to go around. The Nuclear Information and Resource Service reports that just the Callaway reactor in Missouri produces about 300 kilograms of plutonium, which is enough to make 40 nuclear bombs. In case you didn't know, at the end of 2010, there were 435 nuclear power plants in the world, with another 63 under construction. Now, do you think with all those government-run power plants it'd be possible to sneak out just a few pounds of plutonium? I'd say so. And I'll bet you a terrorist would too. But countries like Russia and China don't even need to steal it. Back in 2010, China had 16 reactors with another 26 under construction. And Russia had a whopping 33 working and were building 10 more. Long story short, there are a lot of nuclear bombs out there. and it wouldn't be tough to build a few more. As big of a deal as nuclear bombs are, no one really wants to use them on human beings again. In fact, unless some nut job struck first, I really don't see it happening. But the thing with a nuclear EMP is, they could shoot it 70 miles into the atmosphere and still completely wipe out America as we know it. And the U.S. government knows this for a fact. How? Not just through calculations, they've got hard data. They tested this exact thing back in 1968. It was called the Starfish Prime Test. You'd never know by the name, but this test showed that we had developed a weapon that could entirely wipe out civilized society as we know it. So the government did what they do best. They covered it up. In July of 1962, U.S. scientists launched a 1.44 megaton nuke into space. They detonated it about 250 miles above the mid-Pacific Ocean. Our atmosphere is only about 75 miles high, so that means they essentially set this bad boy off in outer space, and we still felt the effects as far as Hawaii. This detonation did a lot of things, but it showed them that their initial calculations were a little off. A high-altitude nuclear explosion could do a whole lot more damage than they thought. The Starfish Prime Test was so big they couldn't hide it from the public. It knocked out 300 streetlights, damaged a telephone company microwave link, and set off a ton of car alarms. And this was in Hawaii's, quote, rugged electrical and electronic structure. Now consider this. If that's what a test bomb could do to 1965's electronics, imagine what it would do to us now.
So I want to hear your comments down below, and don't forget to hit a thumbs up if you liked it. Let's talk about this and see what you all think. So this is Dan. Till next time, take it easy.